When we came back to the factory in the very beginning of chapter 1, we have no idea what's going on except for a note that tells us that the employees are still alive and that we should go look for the flower. Later in chapter 2, we learned that we used to work for Playtime Co. because right before playing statues, Mommy Longlegs tells us that we used to work here and because of that, we deserve to die.
But you worked here, so if anyone deserves to die alone, it's you.
Then in chapter 3, we learn about the Hour of Joy. The toys killed everyone in the factory and ate their bodies in order to survive. But during the Home Sweet Home hallucination sequence in chapter 3, we hear a radio playing in reverse. And when you put it back to normal, it says that our presence was demanded 10 years ago on August 8th, 1995. The exact day of the Hour of Joy.
I find your presence intrusive. After all this time you return. You come in here and you kill and murder. You pillage and destroy. Your presence was demanded 10 years ago and you didn't show up. 8/8/1995.
But why didn't we show up? How come we managed to survive? Well, it seems that we finally have somewhat of an answer, because I finally saw that in an unused prologue for the game, it tells us exactly why we didn't show up. The text says this: you are an ex-employee of Playtime Co. 10 years ago, Playtime was the king of the toy manufacturing industry. One morning, feeling ill, you decided to take a sick day. The next morning when you showed up for work, military vehicles guarded the outside of the building. Apparently, while you were out sick, every single person inside of the factory vanished into thin air. Now, 10 years later, you're returning for a visit. It's a little interesting to see that literal military vehicles showed up. Like, bro, imagine showing up to work and you see a armored man standing on top of an armored vehicle with an armor-piercing weapon. I'm just trying to sweep the halls, man. The theory originally was that we could have had something to do with the Hour of Joy, but now that this says we just so happened to take a sick day at the perfect time, it seems that we survived based on pure chance rather than us being evil and knowing about the Hour of Joy in advance. But this doesn't seem to be confirmed to be canon, and instead is just most likely true since it was planned to be part of the game. And it's also weird that 10 years later, guilt still haunts us, because in our hallucination we see what seems to be our old office with writing saying guilt haunts you. But if we were sick and got lucky, then why does guilt haunt us? Well, there are two possible reasons. The first is that we actually weren't sick that day and the story is different now compared to the unused prologue. But the other reason is that we were sick but we feel guilty because of what happened to a specific someone. And the reason that I say that is because of what Harley Sawyer tells us when our hand is frozen. He says that whoever we came back for is dead, and then explains to us that Poppy knew that the Hour of Joy was coming.
The experiments killed everyone, including whoever you came back for. You know that by now, yes? Poppy showed you her story, of course. Innocence is bliss.
So if we came back to the factory because guilt overwhelmed us and we came back to find someone, then this would make sense as to why we didn't see that this was a trap from the beginning. Because if we got a letter saying that the employees are still alive, then why are they even sending the letter? That means that one of them had to go to the UPS or something. And at that point, you're out of the factory and don't need any help, which means that whoever sent that letter knew that we survived and was actually luring us to the factory. And the only person who's smart enough to realize this would be the prototype. It's possible that Harley could also do this, but because he was working for the prototype wouldn't care what he wants and would force him to just not send it. But who was it that we came back for? A coworker that we really liked? A friend? Our spouse? We don't really know yet, but since we're now in the labs, which is literally the prototype's home, this man's residence, he's either gonna explain to to us what happened, or he could even be killed off before that point. But if anyone knows, it's definitely going to be him. But now this makes me think, if we just so happen to be sick and luckily avoid the hour of joy, then why did Mommy Longlegs say that we deserve to die? If we were just a factory worker, then we would just be as innocent as anyone else, and we wouldn't have any idea as to what is going on or was going on. For example, Rowan Stole was working at the Playtime factory, and when he noticed that Huggy's eyes would move, he thought that someone could have placed nanny cams in him in order to spy on people.
If some creep is hiding nanny cams in our mascot's eyeballs, then it's something that needs to be taken seriously. You know, something dangerous is going on, and I'm sure it wasn't on purpose. I'm sure it was just some big mistake, but I saw what I saw.
But because of his questions, he was eventually killed by getting fed to Boxy Boo. And because of all of this, we can know that he was 100% innocent. He was completely buffoonified that the toys could be monsters, and instead thought that it was some creep using cameras in toys. So if we worked at Playtime Co., that doesn't necessarily make us immediately guilty by association. But when Mommy Longlegs told us that we used to work here, she got that from memory or was told by someone else. We never said a single word to her, which means that we're known for being the ex-employee who survived. And if Mommy Longlegs remembered us, we either worked in the game station or with the experiments. And if we really did used to work with the experiments, then it makes sense as to why guilt haunts us, especially since the prototype tells us that it was our doing that made him. It seems obvious that we actually might have had something to do with the hour of joy, and this unused prologue is unused for a reason, and that's because we weren't just sick, but helped the prototype with the hour of joy. And let me give you two pieces of evidence that really come close to proving this point. The first is that the warden says that in order to start the hour of joy, you need high clearance, but Harley says that the prototype could have had help, and because of the way he says it, it really sounds like this is a fact.
How could this happen? There's fail-safes, security measures. It's impossible.
Personal agendas have long been the downfall of this company. Is it unreasonable to believe there were conspirators? Playtime is filled with vipers and backstabbers.
But without executive access, how could anyone even get through? Laith, Stella, Eddie, only the four of us have that kind of clearance.
Does any of that matter now? It's your life we have to protect.
And the second piece of evidence is the foreshadowing that Mob is left behind. Because in chapter 2, when we slide down to the game station, we see that we came down Elliot Ludwig's slide, and each higher up in the company had their own. But one slide has its letters taken off and on the floor. But if we realize that Mob has to make everything on purpose, this could be them foreshadowing that we were a higher up at Playtime Co., as we never see a character who has the letters that fell on the floor in any tapes or notes, meaning that this could be us, and the employee that helped the prototype was also us. And this would explain exactly what happened in the hour of joy, why we didn't show up, and why guilt haunts us. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and click on this video right here.